My name is Victor Macias. I am super excited to talk with you guys today and kind of take you through the entrepreneurship journey. It isn't always easy, but there are some tools and some paradigm shifts that we can do to help make the process more enjoyable and more likely that we stick to the end. And, you know, when I think about my journey, the first thing I can remember, I was a kid, and ever since I could remember, I wanted to be rich. Right? It wasn't for having $1 million in the bank. It wasn't for a Ferrari. It was for me what being rich symbolized. Being rich symbolized freedom. It meant that I could control my destiny and that I could design my life in a way that I wanted. And a lot of that stemmed from my parents. So both of my parents immigrated to the US from Mexico at young ages. They worked hard. I think one of my earliest memories is seeing my mom wake up at 4 a.m. and prepping her lunch for work. And, you know, like a lot of moms, she never complained, but I could see in her eyes, she was tired, her joints hurt. And she just, you know, she moved forward and she went to work. And I said, you know, why does my mom have to work so hard? I said, you know, I need to find a way to fix it. And I said, one day I'm gonna make so much money that my mom never has to work again. But as a 6-year-old, I had no idea how I was gonna do it. That all changed one day. I remember going up to my dad on a Saturday morning and asking him for money to buy a toy. And my dad was like, son, how about you find a way to go make some money on your own? And we had this big bag of candy lying around the house. And I remember grabbing the individual pieces and going door to door and selling the candy. And to my surprise, it worked. I had this bag of candy and now I'm getting $1, $2 of candy. And everything shifted because I realized that with enough creativity, I could create value and I could create money and I could create business. And that's where my love of business began. From that point, I realized that entrepreneurship was that pathway to creating my own destiny. And I started. I did everything I could. On the left side, I launched the lawn mowing business. I got a babysitting certificate. Growing up, I launched a software company where the goal was to create software for fitness professionals to train people online. I even launched a line of wooden bow ties, right? What this had in common is that it was an idea that I was bringing to the world and seeing if people wanted it. So it was this creative aspect. And by the time I went to college, again, I finally got my first taste of what I call success. I built this website. I didn't have a lot of money and I outsourced everything. There was a stay-at-home mom in New York that helped me write this book about men's style and grooming. And what was interesting is I saw that guys were asking questions about style. I think that they were too embarrassed to ask women, but they wanted to know, right? How does my hair look? How does my skin look? I turned that concept into a website, which was kind of like a GQ magazine or a Men's Health. And what I realized later is that was the beginning of this whole influencer economy. So I got a chance to partner with brands like Gillette, Chevy, got a chance to meet some pretty cool people and interview them. And it kind of opened my eyes, but still the lifestyle was there. But the money, the life-changing side of it, still hadn't hit. So as many entrepreneurs do, I kept trying things, right? I always wanted to build, and me and a good buddy decided to create a cookie. So if you guys have ever heard about the low-carb keto diet, we went on this keto diet, and to my surprise, I lost a bunch of weight, like melted off. But we were missing cookies. We were missing something sweet. So we go into his mom's kitchen, we start making cookies, and to my surprise, it did well. I remember we had this deal. So we had the cookies. We said, okay, your mom likes it. Let's see if anybody else wants it. So we put up this very simple website. It was a one-page website, and it said the world's first keto cookie. Buy here. And it was such a simple PayPal button. It was not fancy or anything. And we said, if we get 5 orders, I think we've got something. I think in like 2 days, we had over 30 orders. I said, okay, we got something. So this little cookie company here took off. We grew, we rebranded, we raised over $100,000 on Kickstarter. We grew from $3,000 out of our pocket to over 7 figures in under 2 years. And ultimately, we even landed a deal on Shark Tank. like, oh, okay, how does this company, how does this fun project become this thing? And finally, right, for the outside world, incredible. Things are shifting. It's finally what I've always wanted. But on the inside, I was suffering. Like, how ungrateful do I have to be to have this thing that I've always wanted, but yet be suffering on the inside? And the thing is, I was working 80+ hour weeks. I had a little girl and I was missing key moments with her. While the business was growing, we were reinvesting everything. So we were barely paying ourselves. So imagine having this company that's growing, yet I'm still struggling to help my wife at home. I'm feeling like I'm never doing enough, and my mental health was suffering. I was burned out. I was overwhelmed. I was depressed, but I couldn't let everybody down, right? As much as at times I felt like I might collapse, I might quit, there were people counting on me, my family, my friends. So how does one do this? How do you build a business without feeling like you're exploding on the inside? And the company actually began to spiral. So shortly after Shark Tank, we had to quickly move out of our mom's kitchen into a very big manufacturing facility, which is awesome because we were going to grow. But we quickly started running into production issues with our cookies. Cookies were crumbly. The quality wasn't what we needed. We had to refund a lot of orders. We shifted to survival mode. We kept doing more and more with very little additional results. We didn't pay ourselves for 9 months. We had to let go of friends and family that were helping us. And ultimately, my business failed. This company that I thought was going to be the thing that was going to change everything else, it failed. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I might quit as an entrepreneur. Now, as a kid, I've wanted nothing but this. And it was a moment where I had to go through this process of discovering myself again. And it was through this process where I learned what I'm going to share with you today. Right? I learned how to do it different. I learned how to do it better. And I learned how to launch my next chapter. So fast forward, just so it doesn't end on a sad note, I've actually since then started 2 new startups. The first one is Santana Snacks, which is an organic chip company that's going to be launching in a couple of weeks. We are focused on helping people shift their mindset around diet. It's an empowerment brand. And then on the right is Niarani, where I work with artisans from Mexico, and I pay fair trade wages, and I help them sell their products online. These businesses are a blessing, and I could only have gotten here by going through what I went through in my previous business. And that's why it's important as an entrepreneur to take care of yourself and shift your mindset around certain things. So the point of today is to talk about the challenges that a lot of entrepreneurs face and how we can stay focused and motivated. So we're going to talk about the importance of building a support network, how to embrace failure as a part of the journey, how to maintain motivation and commitment to your mission. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurs, right, I put here social enterprise because especially now there's the big trend in entrepreneurs wanting to create a business, not just for profit, but something that actually changes the world alongside. So think of it like a Tom's shoes. So you're not only making money, but you're impacting society in a positive way. So this applies to entrepreneurship in general, but I also want to touch a little on social entrepreneurship. And one of the challenges is learning how to balance your profit with your social impact, how to deal with limited resources and funding. How can you be scrappy? How can you be resourceful? How do you maintain stakeholder engagement? How do you keep people, customers, employees, potential investors excited and bought into the journey? And also, how do you manage expectations and avoid burnout? So this really blew my mind. According to a recent study, and you guys as founders might understand this, but founders are 2 times more likely to suffer from depression. They're 6 times more likely to suffer from ADHD, 3 times more likely to suffer from substance abuse, 10 times more likely to suffer from bipolar disorder, and 2 times more likely to have psychiatric hospitalization. There was in a book, it claims that people with ADHD are 300% more likely to start their own company. So growing up, I was diagnosed with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and it's like a close cousin of ADHD. And the beautiful part is, if you do suffer with anxiety or things like that, you're actually more prone to being an entrepreneur. So it's actually something that works in your benefit. But why? Startups are hard. Startups are alienating. A lot of times, being an entrepreneur can be lonely because it's hard to empathize, right? Your schedule is different than your friends that might have day jobs. One of the things I noticed in the beginning was a lot of my friends that took the corporate paths, they started getting cars, they started getting houses. Meanwhile, I was taking a different path, and sometimes you just feel different. A lot of times we identify with our company. Our worth tends to be tied with the success of our company. Founders eat last, right? We want to make sure that our employees, our team is taken care of. And then if there's something left over, then we take care of ourselves. Imposter syndrome sets in. It's incredible how many entrepreneurs, no matter how successful they are, still feel like they're imposters. And the other is moving the goalposts. So something that tends to happen, especially if you're very ambitious, is the moment you hit a goal, you hit a target, you move the target. You hit it, you move the target, leaving you in a position where you always, like, you never feel like you're doing enough. A couple of the psychological effects are, it's called emotional seesawing, which is happy and sad. It's like the emotional roller coaster. The imbalance of burnout, decision fatigue. If you ever wonder why Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day, a lot of times it's because the less decisions you have to make, the more you can say. So decisions have like a cup, and throughout your day, that cup diminishes with every decision that you make. So imagine if you're wasting all of your decisions on very simple things like what to have for breakfast, what to wear, where to work from. By the time you need to make the real important stuff, your cup is drained. So that's decision fatigue. And then uncertainty is a part of being an entrepreneur. Talked about emotional seesawing, work-life imbalance and burnout. A lot of times we lack rest and downtime, and that's because inside we feel like if we rest, if we let go, we are giving up, we're quitters, right? It's this whole grind culture thing where it's like push more. And the thing that a lot of people that preach grind culture don't talk about is the negative effects of grind culture and how it can actually keep you from success, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. We talked about decision fatigue, decision-making under uncertainties and time restraints. As an entrepreneur, and again, in a couple of slides, I'm going to share actually some strategies as to how to prioritize your top decisions, your most important decisions. So decision fatigue is a challenge. Sometimes, so something interesting, I talk here about the consequences are loss of excitement and passion. I think one of the saddest things, at least in my last journey, is no matter how much we were growing, no matter how much our sales soared, I started to feel more and more like I had created a jail for myself. And a lot of that was, well, all of that was my own creation, but I started feeling like I couldn't create a business in a way that I wanted because I had too many people depending on me. There was a lot of pressure. So over time, you start to kind of lose some of that excitement and the passion that got you there. Relationship strains, especially in your home life. And then deterioration of judgment and decision-making, that's because of the exhaustion and being tired. So let's talk a little bit about imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is basically persistent self-doubt despite evidence of success. So a lot of times if you have imposter syndrome, you know, it stifles innovation, you don't take enough risks, your mental well-being. And in order to address imposter syndrome, you need to, one is embrace self-awareness. So journaling, daily journaling is very powerful for this. Mentorship, learning how to separate emotion from logic, being able to think through things like this in this way can help you overcome imposter syndrome. So what do we do? All right, we talked about the challenges, what it is, why it happens. How do we overcome? So a couple of like a broad stroke is one is you need to build a strong support network. You need to learn how to leverage partnerships and collaborations. You need to develop a mindset of resilience and adaptability, flexibility. Some people call it pivoting. And we need to prioritize self-care and mental health. And I know this is something we'll say, I know that, but I'm going to get into practical examples of how and why it's important to the success of yourself as an entrepreneur. So how do you stay motivated and committed to your mission? I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the importance of having a why, right? Some people call it a mission, but tying back to the reason why you got into business in the first place. And whenever things get challenging, whenever you feel stuck, reminding yourself as to your why. A very simple way to do it is you can have a yellow Post-it and have it like on the top corner of your laptop. I do a digital version, but it reminds me. So my why is I want to help others become the best version of themselves. That is why I do anything, any business, any ideas, because I want to help others tap into their full potential, right? So when you're feeling that doubt, how do you tap into that? You also need to learn how to celebrate milestones and achievements, even if they're small achievements. One of the things that we would do as a team with NUI is every day we would have what's called a standing meeting. So about 15 minutes in the morning before we got our day started, we would celebrate our wins. Everybody would go around the room and we would say, give me 3 things that you're grateful for. So we'd all just talk about gratitude. And then, okay, give me 1 win. Even if it was, I made a client phone call that I didn't, I didn't expect the client to pick up and I made it and I closed the sale, right? So you can build that into your culture. And that ties into fostering a positive organizational culture. Then also embrace lifelong learning and personal growth. I talk about my previous business, but I can also tell you that I've never grown so much in my life. Because of that journey, I embraced meditation, personal development, journaling. I was forced. It's like if you're in the gym and you want to build your muscle, you need to lift heavier weights. That's what happens through this process. So embrace it as a part of the journey. So how do you maintain motivation? Well, for one is you want to set goals that are measurable, right? These are called SMART goals. And it's basically something that has a date and a specific measurable. Now, one of the mistakes that I would make is I would set these 10-year goals. And I'd say, I'm going to reach this metric. And it was so far away that what I did daily did not tie to it. So I would lose my connection with what I really wanted. Something that I do now that helps a lot is I actually focus on creating 3-month goals. So a lot of times, again, back to the past, is I would set long-term goals and I would set a lot. I would set 10, 15 goals and I get super excited the first week, the second week, and then month 3, I would lose focus, lose track. So what I do now is I will set one key thing that I want to accomplish every 3 months. Obviously, other things are going to happen in your business during that time. But what is the one thing that if you did it, no matter if anything else happened, your business would still move forward? So the importance of setting clear short-term goals. You want to cultivate a growth mindset and you want to seek inspiration from mentors and role models. Right now, with the internet, there's so many people, even on social media, whether it's a Gary Vee or an Alex Hormozy or a Tony Robbins, or you have podcasts or you have books. Growing up, I didn't know any entrepreneurs. There were no entrepreneurs in my life, but I found them through books. So there's books, there's resources, and hopefully over time you have your own personal network. So how do you go about building a support network? Well, you can, like I talked about, you have social media, you have LinkedIn, but a lot of low-hanging fruit is you can join industry associations. There's online communities, for example, on Reddit, on Facebook. There's a lot of places that you can join in and connect and empathize and connect with other founders to kind of help you along this journey. I think one of the biggest takeaways and lessons that I learned is We need to learn how to embrace failure and learning from mistakes as a part of the journey. So failure is a part of the journey, right? No matter what you do, as you fail, you need to learn and adapt. Now, there's a process that we talk about that we teach in the Startup Incubator. It's called the MVP, the Minimum Viable Product Process. And it's basically designed to test your assumptions in business and learn quickly. So let me give you an example. I have this idea that I just brought up for this organic chip line. I didn't start off with the idea of making an organic chip. First, I started off with a general idea of what I thought people might want. So what do? I went to about 40, 50 people and I surveyed them. Hey, what are your biggest challenges in regards to health? Right? And they answered questions. Then I found themes. Okay, cool. Okay, so you want healthier food. Great. I took that and then I asked them, in the food category, which types of products would you like most? And I listed, do you want chips? Do you want candy? Do you, whatever it is, right? And they chose chips. Like, interesting. Now I followed up within chips. Which are the factors that you care about the most? Do you care about organic? Do you care about keto? Do you care about low carb? And all of this allowed me to refine my idea. And had I just gone and launched the product from zero, I could have spent a lot of money going in the wrong direction. So this actually allowed me to test my assumptions quickly and learn from failure quickly. So think, the quicker you can learn, the quicker you can fail, the faster you can adapt, and the faster you can succeed. So how do we manage challenges? Well, number one is you need to be able to say no, set boundaries. Routines and structures, man, one of my biggest challenges when I was starting my full-time entrepreneurship journey is that I had no on or off switch. I was always kind of on and always kind of off. I had to create my own structure so that I could be in work mode, family mode. And that's created by routines and structures. You need to learn how to be present. And I'm going to talk about some ways to do this. You can change your environment. There's therapy. And then you want to cultivate being effective versus busy. Wait a couple slides and you're going to see that the difference in how this can be pivotal in your approach to business. So how do we say boundaries? Set boundaries. Well, number one is you say no. You realize that saying no to something means saying yes to something else. And I think something critical is you need to learn how to protect personal time like a business meeting. I used to devalue my personal time. What did it mean to take a break? Well, it meant I was lazy. It meant I wasn't committed enough. It meant I wasn't aggressive enough. What shifted was treating my off time and actually blocking it out on my calendar like time off, like a meeting. If somebody wants to meet with me during that time, sorry, I have a meeting. But I learned later how critical this was to recharging. And actually some of my best ideas came during my time off. So you can set boundaries that way. Another way is setting boundaries allows you to empower others. One of the biggest things that I learned is the power of not responding to emails, right? We're in this culture where you want to be, you know, you're getting your social media pings, you're getting your email pings, and you're responding right away because, you know, things need to get done quickly. But what I realized is if I don't answer certain emails for a certain amount of time, let's say until 2 o'clock every day, a lot of the problems that seem like problems take care of themselves. They either go away or they force your employees, your team to act and to actually fix things themselves. So over time, they're not gonna ping you when they're gonna try to actually solve it first. And then boundaries help you create that work-life balance that we talk about. Routines and structures. So it's very critical to have a morning routine, especially as an entrepreneur. It depends on what you find online. There's people that have these very complex routines. I like to keep mine very simple. My morning routine is I wake up, I take a cold shower, I meditate, I plan my day. I do that every day so that no matter what happens, I feel like I've already won the day. All right, some other tips that you might have found or might have heard of is make your bed. It's interesting. There's I believe it was a monk that he was talking about productivity and the importance of making your bed. While it seems like it's something very simple, the act of making your bed subconsciously gives you a win for the day. So what you want to do is if you want to leave your house already feeling like you've built momentum, like you've already won. And also when you come home, let's say your day's stressful and you've had a bunch of challenges, at least you know you come home to a clean room. So routines and structures, quiet time is important. It depends on our personality. I like to block out time for walks, at least 30 minutes a day. And journaling. There's a couple of ways to go about journaling. One of my favorite things to do is after I sit down and grab my coffee, I set a timer for about 15 minutes. I open up my desktop and I just type. I type unfiltered, I don't edit, and I kind of like vomit onto the page. And what this does is it purges a lot of the anxieties, a lot of the worries, a lot of the fears. And it's like if you have a snow globe, you're shaking the snow globe, and then you have fresh snow to start your day. Been one of the most profound changes that I've implemented in my life. Be present. Personally, I like to meditate, but there's breathing techniques. You can go for walks. The key, when people say the word be present, it just means connect with your body, right? Connect with the now. And a lot of times we're so wired as entrepreneurs to think about the future, to think about our vision, to think about our goals, that even just doing this for a couple of minutes a day creates a lot of clarity and a lot of peace in our lives. Therapy. One of the best things I ever did was to sit down with a therapist and just talk about my life. When you have an outside point of view looking at your problems or your challenges, it really gives you a different perspective. A lot of times they can see what you can't. They see your blind spots and they can pinpoint and you kind of break through. So I highly support therapy, but there's other ways you can also connect with others. We talked about Reddit, we talked about Facebook groups. There are now therapy apps. There's so many meditation apps, but something you can consider is if you want to get into meditation, you can start very small. So not to go too much into a tangent, but a couple of years ago, I was trying to build a habit of meditation. I was like, I can't fit in 20, 30 minutes to just sit down and do nothing. So what I did is I kind of played a game with myself. I said, I'm going to meditate for 1 minute a day. That's it. I set a timer. As I was getting ready after I brushed my teeth, I set the timer, I closed my eyes, I just counted my breaths. The minute was up, I got up and I left. The next week, I did 2 minutes. It's easy. Then I did 5, then I did 10. What matters was not the length, it was about building the habit. And now I can meditate 20, 25 minutes, no problem. So that applies to any habit you want to build. Make it so simple that it's laughable if you don't do it. All right, now we're getting to the productive stuff. Busy does not equal effective. Okay, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to understand what actually moves the needle, right? You need to understand what your high leverage activities are. There's a book that I highly recommend. It's called 80-20 Marketing. And the author breaks down different tasks into theoretical dollar value. So it says, okay, there are $10 tasks, there are $100 tasks, there are $1,000 tasks, and there are $10,000 tasks. What you want to do is you want to move towards the $10,000 tasks as quickly as possible while delegating everything else. So understand your strengths, focus on your high leverage activities, learn how to delegate, and learn how to prioritize. One of the things that I do every week for prioritization is I have this, I call it a bucket. But basically, anytime I have an idea or a task or a to-do item, I dump it into this bucket. I don't call it a to-do list. I call it a maybe list. So I throw everything on there. Now, every Sunday, I scan this maybe list and I will pull out the things that seem like they're the most impactful, the things that are kind of pulling at me. And I'll list it. Okay, this. I probably end up with a list of like 20 things. Then I go through that list one more time and I said, what are the 3 to 5 things I can get done this week that will move the needle and basically make all the difference in my business. I circle those and I put them on a separate list where I'm only looking at that. Okay, so that's my priority for the week. Those 5 things, no matter if chaos hits, I get that stuff done. Then to take it one step further is every day I look at that list and I pick one thing. Okay, what is the one thing from this list that I can do right now before I get disturbed that will make all the difference in my business? If I get that done and I still have more time, I'll pick something else. But that is kind of the process towards doing what's important and always kind of keeping your eye on the highest leverage activities. And in the Q&A, if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer that. So instead of a task list, like I said, switch to a daily priorities list where only the urgent and the important items are listed. Now, another thing you can do in terms of, we talked about a support group, we talked about the importance of a network, is you can look at an incubator. Now, specifically, we're talking about the Cal State Fullerton Startup Incubator, but it's an opportunity for you to meet with mentors, people that have done it, people that are doing it. If you want access to investors, if you want like a roadmap to keep you focused, an incubator is a great way to do it. Now, I'm slightly biased. I'm one of the mentors at the incubator, but it's definitely a tool that can help you stick to the long term, because there's that accountability, right? Every week you're meeting with a mentor. You set a goal and you're staying on track. You're staying on track. It's very key. It's very important. And final thoughts. So entrepreneurs often face challenges, like I said, balancing profit and their impact. You're often dealing with limited resources. You need to learn how to overcome your challenges and reconnect to your why. Why are you doing this? What keeps you up at night in terms of what motivates you, what excites you? Learn how to set clear goals, learn how to celebrate daily wins, and learn how to prioritize. That is the path, and that is the key to overcoming the entrepreneur's most common challenges and how to stay motivated. Because in the end, if you don't enjoy the journey, you're not going to stick to the end. Build your business and design your life in a way that you love the process. And the cool thing about entrepreneurship is you get to make up your own rules. There is no one way to do it. So that is my approach to motivation challenges. I'd be more than happy to hang out and answer any questions if you have them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Victor. So for those of you who would like to ask questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. And while we're waiting for people to collect their thoughts, I just thought I'd chime in and say I really like that you break it down into like easy wins and the maybe list. I'm actually stealing that from you.
Take it, man. I think I saw some people raise their hands as well. I'm excited to
Go ahead.
I had a question, Victor. Thank you for sharing, by the way. I really appreciate that. I mean, I think I have ADD, or I just go in several directions.
You're blessed, man. You're blessed.
When you journal, like that's something I've like within like 2 weeks I started doing. Do you you say you just blot out, do you focus on your personal life, business, or you just let it go?
Good question. So there's a couple of approaches. I like to simplify it. So one is what I call my brain dump. And that's anything, right? That's think about it like a paper that you would write and you would burn after. So this is your innermost anger, excitement, happiness, hopes, jealousy, whatever you're feeling, purge it, get rid of it. That's one. Then you have another approach. There's an app, it's called the 5-Minute Journal, which I like. And it's a very structured process. So what are you most grateful for? What is your biggest challenge, right? It's very structured and you kind of fill it in daily. And that, so you can alternate, you can do both. The main takeaway here is just get in the process of doing some version of journaling.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir. Appreciate that.
Sweet. Joyce?
Hi, Victor. So my question has to do with online teams. What if you never meet in person? Do you have any tricks and tools for that?
I love it. And actually most of my team is online. So definitely. I think it's important if now, are we talking specifically about like motivating them or boundaries? Like what would you say specifically about online teams?
So one of the problems generally is time zone. and trying to be effective within maybe a 2-hour time when they're getting off and you're getting on, or something like that. The other is motivating from a long distance. People who are remote feel very isolated. I do know that you don't get that knowledge spillover that you generally get being in an office. You don't hear people talking on the phone. You don't get that informal training, and you feel a lot of every group I've worked with, there is a level of feeling embarrassed to ask a question because I should have known this. Everyone else seems to know this. And then you find out no one knows it. So there's a lot of that isolation problem at all. So I think I'm asking for both. One is how to be effective together, but also how to motivate and be a good, solid team.
I love it. So one of my good friends worked for a company called Automatic. If you've ever heard of WordPress, like the WordPress website platform, they're a 100% distributed team. They have thousands of employees. They work all across the world. And the way they did it, they do a couple of things. One is they have a company blog, right? Let's say you have a team of 6 people. Every Friday, everybody submits a status update with where they're stuck, their wins, and it's all in a central location where everybody can see, right? So that's one quick way where everybody can be on the same page. So they have that, plus they use Slack, right, for asynchronous chats. I think personally, it's still important to have boundaries and not be available all the time. One thing that helps with feeling like people are in the same team. So our customer service rep was in the Philippines. And what we would do is we would find a time, right, that important crossover where we would do like a daily 15-minute check-in. And again, we would all meditate together. We would all practice gratitude together. We would do pizza parties sometimes, right? We would send like a gift card that she could buy something. So we would, yes, it's not the same, right? But we would create the feeling where people would really connect, and we would encourage them to connect with each other. And it really helped a lot with community building. So it's transparency. Ray Dalio has a book called Principles. Ray Dalio is one of the greatest investors of all time. And he has an approach to business called radical transparency. So a lot of what his company does is similar. It's very, we're all going to see it. So consider having a central location where everybody gives their updates, and then consider some kind of a community building offline thing or online thing, but it would be like pizza or something where you can connect on a personal level. Does that help, or you want me to go deeper? Let me know.
You're welcome to. I'll take all advice that I can get, but I appreciate what you've said so far.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sweet. Okay, yeah, I'll go there, and if something else comes to me, I'll jump back in. All right, guys. What else? Don't be shy. Who else has questions?
Hey, Victor, it's Demetrius Knight. How are you doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, good. I just wanted to comment and just really emphasize a lot of the points that you really hit on. You know, they really have a lot of significance in this day and age. I think just to provide some context, you know, I graduated from the Cal State Entrepreneurship program back in 2019, and I decided to really niche myself in a career field. So, you know, I brought that type of grind culture into tech, and they really didn't know what to do with that type of work ethic. So, you know, I just been crushing it. And, you know, I've gone to a point where, you know, burnout, or like, you know, you just get tired and, you know, you're always moving the goalposts. So I think it's really important to go to these types of events because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, this is just kind of free, you know, personal development content, and really brings home the importance of like mental health and self-care and just being easy on yourself. So I just wanted to just say, you know, I definitely have experienced, you know, those types of ups and downs, but, you know, being able to meet other individuals that kind of have experienced similar challenges, it really just shows that, you know, you're not alone, and, you know, there's always going to be someone out there that understands and can empathize with what you're experiencing. So just wanted to say kudos to you and the Cal State Fullerton team.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Demetrius. That means a lot, man.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Something that really shifted my mindset with this too was, if there was no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, what would you do differently? How would your business and your life look differently? If there was no, I made it, there was no $10 million check, there was like, would you run your days differently? Would you still be in the same business? Would you still work with the same people? And I think that's so powerful. Like, I had a friend, so during this whole challenging time, this guy, much older, he's like I call him my Zen master. His company was like 40 mil a year, but he was like the epitome of like peace and Zen. And he said, based on, because he had a similar issue before, he said, look, he said, I have a couple of rules. He said, number one is I only work with people I love. And number two is I build a business that I never want to sell. Now, if it comes where somebody makes me an offer, I have more leverage, but shifting that perspective alone, like, it just changed how I approached my life, how I approached business, and how I approach my day-to-day. So hopefully it gives you guys context, but it really helped me a lot.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sweet. Anybody else?
Just a quick question about balance. I mean, I have daughters as well. How do you go about balancing that? Because you know how kids always want to play. They always want to, and they don't understand that you're building now, because you can sit and explain to them, but it's not going to get very far. So how do you approach that?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, it's like my son wants to play Luigi. I'm like, I'm building an empire for you. It's like, I think one of the things that helped me is maybe not work-life balance, but work-life blend. So I try to think, where can I include them in the process? So with my Niarani, right, where we ship artisan bags, I actually pay my daughter $1 for every bag she ships. So she gets excited. She's a part of the journey, right? My son will knock on the door. Hey, Dad, how's the chip business going? When can we try it, right? So they feel like they're a part of the journey. That's one. And then two is, again, block out time for the kids and treat it like a meeting, right? There are no interruptions. Even if it's an hour, even if it's 30 minutes in a kid's life, that's undivided attention. I've found that it makes such a big difference. So I like to plan my week on Sundays. Like I'll set up a grid and I will block out kid time, and then I will block out me time, and then I will block out work time. And that tends to help. It's not perfect, but it helps.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So in trying to conserve time and effort, which tasks would you outsource and which one would you hire a person in? If you could outsource HR, accounting, something, which ones would you choose to outsource more than have in-house?
Great questions. What I've found is I will no longer outsource anything that's customer facing. Okay. Anything where it's my brand and I need to specifically talk to somebody needs to be in-house. Everything else can be delegated. I mean, you have AI now. There's a lot of things you can do, but that's my approach.
Hey, Victor, forgive me if you've covered this already, but do you have any tips on the fatigue that comes from the goalpost that seems like it infinitely moves? You hit the goalpost, there's another, you hit it, there's another. Kind of seems like it never ends. Do you have maybe milestones where you think you stop and you take a break and kind of give yourself a pat on the back? Or like a baseline that you have for yourself where you kind of reflect and say, oh, this, I got through 1 mile of the race. There's 5 more miles. It's a 7K or it's a 10K. Or do you just do it intuitively?
Awesome question. A couple of ways. One is the daily practice of gratitude. right? Because when you're in gratitude, you are in the now and you're not thinking in the future, right? So if you, every day you're practicing gratitude, you're already winning, right? So that's
right.
like a reflection. Something that I like to do too is at the end of my day is I will write down my wins for the day. So what are 3 things that I did today that I am proud of? Even and it can be small. I mean, I was anxious to send this email and I sent it. You know, this happened. So you're building this culture of winning. And the other is I like to make simple short-term goals. So as opposed to saying I want to go 0 to 2 million, 0 to 5 million, I set like a 3-month goal that's ambitious enough for me. It's exciting. And then after I hit it, or if I get close to hitting it, then I will allocate time for me, something I like, right?
Gotcha.
Like I like going to movies on a random Tuesday when there's nobody around, right? Like I feel like I have ownership over my time.
Yeah.
So that's my approach. Does that help?
Okay, it does. Yeah. So you got to be
Yeah.
diligent over your accomplishments and allocating congratulations to yourself.
Exactly.
And then you can be
exactly.
then you can be grateful for what you've accomplished. Okay, that's great.
Exactly. I'm gonna give you one, and it might sound a little woo-woo, right? But it's called the 40-day self-love experiment. All right. So check this out. And I tried it because I want to see what happened. So for 40 days, 3 times a day, you look in a mirror and you look into your eyes, direct into your eyes, and you say, I love you. You say it 10 times, and then you go about your day. What I realized is at first I felt very cringy, like, oh, it feels weird. But it was because I felt weird accepting love. I realized a couple days in, like,
Right.
I'm having a hard time accepting love. What happens is a couple weeks later, you habituate it and you start to feel it's this power where you realize that which we seek from the world, we need to give ourselves, right? A lot of times it's goals because we want validation. But when you love yourself and you give yourself daily validation, a lot of that kind of goes away or becomes easier to manage.
So you're fulfilling the validation yourself.
Exactly.
And then you have like a superpower because you're always fulfilled all the time.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
great.
Exactly.
That's great. I'm going to write that down and try it. Thanks,
Try it, man. Let me know how it goes. Yeah, for sure, man.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up, man?
So I actually came in a little bit late. I was in a meeting right before this, but I saw this event on Eventbrite, and I was just like, I'm kind of curious what this is. I've never like been part of something like this. But I had a question since like everybody, this is like such a good group to like throw a question about this and stuff. So I'm from San Diego, and I'm a video director. I shoot video content and stuff, and right now I'm working on like scaling my business to have a pipeline of like clients to come from my personal brand, and that's and like that process of like being able to take like a lead all the way to like winning the client. I'm wondering like, what is like the best tips to really pitch a client on in a sense of like psychology, like what is something that they're like looking for more than just the value I'm going to bring to them?
Awesome question. I will start first with some resources. Are you familiar with Russell Brunson? Have you heard of funnel marketing by any chance?
Yes, I heard. Yes, funnel. Yes.
All right. .com secrets will blow your mind, right? And a big part of that is the secret to selling is not trying to sell, all right? It sounds kind of corny and weird backwards, but a lot of it is showing your credibility and social proof, right? And depending on where you are online, it could be showing client testimonials, it could be showing examples of your work. And through that process, you provide people value. So let's say, as an example, like where's your main social media channel? Like where are you getting traffic?
Instagram.
Sweet. So with Instagram, let's just, as an example, you start creating content and you're good and people are like, wow, this is cool. Mm-hmm. Well, link on your bio is you give people something for free, something valuable that they want so that they can go on some kind of email list, right? You might already know this. But now what you do is when they're on your email list, you can, again, you create so much value. You can create a free report, free custom video, whatever it is, where at the end, when you're actually asking for the sale, you've created so much reciprocity that your conversions like drastically change.
Got it.
And you know what I'm saying? So it's about Yeah, yeah.
For
So
sure, for
that's
sure, yeah.
the approach I would look at.
And
Yeah.
and even when like, because my brother runs a clothing brand, but he doesn't have a personal brand. And I told him like, man, if you created a personal brand behind like, because everybody wants to learn something and like kind of get like and look on how you build an e-commerce brand or whatever it is. And I was encouraging him like, yo, you should make a personal brand because the amount of like value you could push for like that you bring to people will like you could easily be like building brands with like bigger names and people like in the game that is already doing it, rather than like, I mean, like doing a startup business is like tough, especially in e-commerce and clothes, like
Yeah.
clothes and stuff. It's insane. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. I mean, I just wanted to get a little bit of insight on what you think about that.
I love it, man. And yes, personal brands right now, like they're killing it. Look at Mr. Beast. Look at Logan Paul. Like all these guys, they're making money through e-commerce. I know, not a fan. Not saying I approve, just as an example.
Exactly.
But they are monetizing their brand, right?
For sure.
They're building the connection with their audience, and then they're selling stuff.
Exactly. Yep.
Joyce, I saw your face. I saw your face. I'm not endorsing Logan Paul. I'm giving you an example.
No, for sure. Sweet. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to jump in again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I keep trying to wait. If someone just cut me off if you want. Okay. What about passive income that is based on your business, that is like a side passive income that will continue? So if your business is, struggling up and down with revenue, you still using things from this business, you still have passive income. I know some people have created online classes that it just runs, and they pay through Stripe, and and people sign up for those classes, and it is a passive income that will help sustain if your business is going up and down. Do you ever recommend that? Do you have ideas for that? Am I burning myself out too much?
No. I see where you're coming from. Now, whether you're burning yourself out, it all depends on how much more you have on your plate, right? Like I'd have to see everything side by side and see which should be focused on. However, as a general rule of thumb, it's in the internet marketing world. It's that if you don't have like a monthly membership, you don't have a business, right? If you're relying on like a big launch for like this burst of cash, and then it dries up, you're always chasing that next sale. That's why so many online marketers focus on some type of like a monthly subscription or a monthly program. It also reduces your stress. Like I would almost look at that as a primary, because then you don't have to, you're not in survival mode. You're more in creative mode. You can create products that are better because you're not worried about the next check. So without knowing your business specifically, I'm always an advocate of some kind of monthly, even with I'm doing e-commerce, I'm pushing people towards my subscribing saves. All right, same thing. I want people on ongoing revenue. But whether you should do it or not, again, depends on everything else you have on your plate. Okay.
I was going to say, I like things that are evergreen and something that can be purchased at any time, because it does take a lot of time to create new content or new programs. And so having something evergreen is really nice.
For sure. Demetrius, were you going to say something? I think I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on one point. You were talking about your experience in like being able to identify new business ventures. Could you kind of talk about how what's your process with like discovering like blue ocean opportunities?
Good question. And I will, without a diagram, I'll try to say it. I'll try to explain it. Okay.
Yeah.
I like to see it like a Venn diagram where 3 circles intersect. Circle 1 is my unique strengths, right? We all have things that we're good at and not. We're wired that way. And I like to double down on what I'm good at. So there's personality tests. PrinciplesU.com is free. It's awesome. 16personalities.com is awesome. In that circle, again, I put what are the things that I'm good at. In another overlapping circle, what are the things that I'm passionate about? What are the things that I like? So again, when I asked the question, if there was no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, what would you do? Right? What could you see yourself doing even if there was no money associated? So those overlap. And then the third overlap is the opportunity, right? What makes money? What is happening? And for that, I would look at market trends, right? There's a lot of industry reports. There's a lot of, I mean, right now I can tell you we got AI, the ChatGPT stuff. In the food space, there's this big movement towards all natural. So that's where you fit in the actual reality, what's happening in the world right now, right? Where are the opportunities? Where those three circles overlap, personally, is where I feel the sweet spot is, right? Because we're good at it, we love it, and there's money in it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Trying to play up to your advantage as much as possible.
Completely.
Yeah.
One of the best things you can do is double down on what you're good at, man. Delegate everything you're not.
Yeah. Like, I don't like, I'm not like big, I don't know. There's just some industries that I'm not really passionate about. So it's like, it's more energy for me to even get, self-started, in those types of scenarios. So I definitely see that value. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Look, Demetrius, I've chased opportunities for money and I always hit a wall. It just stops being fun, or I hit the money, or the money's too hard to get. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this. The ones where it worked, the ones that took off, I liked it. And I saw it almost like a game. It's fun. Even right now, like I do it because it's fun. So hopefully that provides insight.
It does. Thank you.
Mhm.